For 100,000 years, Xal'atath has schemed toward this moment. I say schemed because she's not the jailer. She didn't have a gigabrain plan 100,000 years ago that she's now perfectly played. No, she's survived and improvised her way through. And now, that is giving her the chance to become what Sargeras, the old arch-villain of the Warcraft universe, had always fought to destroy. And that is a cosmos-devouring threat. Because if you are that, if you can consume everything, yeah, your odds of survival are pretty damn good. And while doing a comparison of Midnight and War Within marketing may make you think that this is just a rerun of her plans from the War Within, just a few corrupted servants here and there, well, no, you'd be dead wrong. It is time for the big war, us versus the Void, a fight that we've been told we will lose. This is the big event, and it won't be at the Sunwell. It will be initially, but look, we already know we'll get the Sunwell back. But we also already know that Xal'atath will get what she wants, that she will get access to her prize, to Azeroth. Azeroth, which appears to be a goddess trapped at the heart of our planet. And that means that Quel'Thalas is not the end, that it is just the beginning. And this is our chance to understand Xal'atath before she unleashes her devouring host. So today, I'm not going to tell you what she wants. We all already understand that by now. I'm going to talk about how she's going to get it. Now, give me a quick sec. I've got an upgrade to my setup I really want to show you. It's from our sponsor, Ugreen. And here's the problem I solved. I wanted a proper charging station near the sofa, somewhere where my partner and I can just drop our devices and charge. No fighting over plugs, no slow trickle, because you've got three things that are sharing one power brick, and that is where the Ugreen 200-watt desktop charger just handles it. It's got 8 ports, 6 USB-C, 2 USB-A, and any single USB-C port can push up to 100 watts, which means I can charge my laptop at full speed, while any phones, earbuds, anything else can just charge simultaneously. Things aren't throttling other things. It's gallium nitride powered with smart current distribution, so it handles load across everything safely, and the form factor is really nice. It comes with a stand, it sits upright, it looks clean, there's no cable spaghetti, there's not clutter. It's just a tiny little station that covers every device that we own. It is such an upgrade not having to rummage around for chargers all the time, and that's especially when we've got a ROG Ally and a Switch 2 in the house as well. Loads of things that need charged. So you can check it out at the link down below. Ugreen continue to be absolute price to performance kings. Xal'atath exploded from the anonymity of Sentient Blade to being a core threat within the Battle for Azeroth expansion. We spent a few years exploring the afterlife in the Dragon Isles, but in the background, she was quite busy. Unlike the primal incarnates who seemed to appear out of nowhere, the void-corrupted cultures of Khazalgar had a source. Scratch the surface, and it was clear that Xal'atath had sunk her fangs in deep, probably while we were gallivanting around with the Chuckler Zoval himself. The Nerubians, Halofal's Order of Night, the Scaradin, it all had a point. Xal'atath has been doing one thing since Battle for Azeroth. Let's go through it. She gained the essence of Galakrond. She slurped up Dalaran's arcane energies, telling us that she would make better use of its power than we would. She consumed Beludar's shadow energy, and then there was that big trap under our feet. You know, Khazalgar being filled with old god blood. Literal remnants of their former infestation of the planet. Go back to the Mists of Pandaria logic, and you can infuse that stuff with negative emotion, which is why she destroyed Dalaran and gave us that fake-out Khadgar death, leaving us with only one option, to get mad and pour our hatred and grief into that old god blood. Of course, all for her to pump that power straight into the Dark Heart. And then finally, at War Within's end, she consumed Demencius. Yes, he was the Great Devourer, but in reality, he had been sitting on Xal'atath's throne, inadvertently waiting for the true might of the Void to rise, that being her. Now, what was it all leading to? What did she need all of that power for? Well, it all clicked into place in patch 11.2.7, specifically in this moment. That thing is the Voidspire, and it reveals a new dimension to Xal'atath's plans, because her schemes did not begin on Azeroth or Koresh. They began a long time ago on her homeworld, when she basically realized that she needed to take in the power of the Void and somehow use it to survive. Now what that all leads us to is Voidstorm. It's the fourth new zone of Midnight, and there she's meticulously built two things. First, an aristocracy of the Void, one that is led by Imperator Aversian. He doesn't want to consume reality like his boss. His goal is the total annihilation of all life. Brutal ethic installed from the top. The second thing she has built is the Devouring Host, an army strong enough to challenge a slot over on Azeroth. Now, she needs a gate to unleash all of that brutality on Azeroth. Now, Illyria is brought to Voidstorm and then forced to watch as Xal'atath uses the power gained in the Darkheart to open that portal. Basically, a big old spell designed to drill the veil between Void and our reality, opening a gate over Silvermoon, which is what we see in the Midnight cinematic. Now, in Midnight, that gate is open. We've been alerted, yet we rush towards Silvermoon. As we do that, Xal'atath has been working her magic in the background. She's been laying traps and corrupting mortals, effectively laying the groundwork for her Devouring Host's invasion. A while back, when she was trapped in the dagger, she was used as a sacrificial dagger by the Pale Orcs of the Twilight's Hammer clan. Now, the Old Horde's defeat transformed that clan into what we now know in World of Warcraft, the Twilight's Hammer cult. And we had thought that they were defeated with the end of N'Zoth, but no, not all of them were dead, and it seems a bunch of them were just waiting. And they've been waiting for this moment since the Void first whispered the Hour of Twilight to the Pale Orcs on Draenor. They've pledged themselves to Xal'atath, they now call themselves the Twilight's Blade, and they are far from destroyed. From Stormwind's Old Town to Orgrimmar Shadowcleft, the Twilight's Blade infects the mortals, turning even more to Xal'atath's service. And throughout Quel'Thalas, we will find Blood Elves who have heard the call and will forsake their own people and the Sunwell. But it doesn't stop in Azeroth. Let's look back to the Voidspire, where we see that Xal'atath's words corrupted the Red Dragons Veilgor and Ezorak, because they now serve as Void Dragon Guards in the Voidspire. And within the Voidspire, we will find, of course, Salhadar, once king and high priest of the Ethereals, now tortured by the Shadow Guard he once led. You may have seen the big cinematic with him recently. You see, he was Team Dimensius, but it turns out being Team Dimensius was, him backing the wrong horse. So Xal'atath offered him one of her classic Faustian bargains. Take my hand, and your people will no longer be slaves to the Void. Instead, they will be transcendent in it. You see, just like the Ethereals, she was once immortal, and she just wants to do the same thing that Salhadar does, to survive. As it turns out, all of that stuff is true, and it was exactly what Salhadar needed to hear. But soon we'll find the reality he bought himself in the Voidspire, where he's being pumped full of Void energy, perhaps tortured beyond recognition and probably dreaming of a future for his people, or just, death. Just another pawn of Xal'atath's path to Azeroth. And you may think, of course he probably knew it would all go bad. Why would he agree? Well, I think the answer is already in the text. It's all about survival, and if he did not agree to join her, he would have died then and there. So why not take a punt in the future, even if you're fairly sure it will be bad? Now, where does all of this leave us? Well, we've got a Devouring Host waiting to be unleashed, a gateway into Azeroth for them to be unleashed through, servants on the planet exactly where she needs them, and in Voidstorm, a whole Void-twisted planet bent to her will and with one mission: to invade. And in doing so, give Xal'atath the brief opening she needs to lock in her victory. But there's one piece of the puzzle that I haven't talked about yet, and that's Illyria. But to understand how Illyria fits in, and why she's inadvertently been serving Xal'atath this whole time, we need to know what Xal'atath actually wants. Okay, lock in, because this is the big point of the video. What the hell does Xal'atath want? Now, the easy answer is she wants the World Soul, but to just put it that way is thinking about things backwards. What she wants is to devour until there is nothing left to consume, and Azeroth unlocks that. There's no greater meal, no greater source of power or central meaning in our setting. Consume Azeroth and the rest will fall into place. But there's a more subtle truth about how she's actually going to do it. Because Azeroth has changed. Once it was just a planet for orcs and humans to fight over, then it was a sleeping titan, then we understood that titan as a world soul, and that maybe a world soul can turn into a titan, but maybe doesn't always turn into one. Maybe they can be other things. But in this expansion, we find something called the Cradle of Alnhara. Now, I started that by saying Aln, and you may remember the Rift of Aln, a place in the Stormrage novel, but also it's where you fought Xavius in the first raid of the Legion expansion. And what matters here is that the Cradle of Alnhara seems to be a physical place where Azeroth once existed. It seems to say that she had a physical form, and it was kidnapped from its cradle, turning it into the Rift of Aln. It was the Titans, it seems, that took her. And that's a major roadblock for Xal'atath, because they stashed her away at the core of our planet in what we've come to call the Worldcore. The thing that Xal'atath wants, the physical form of Azeroth, is trapped in an immense Titan installation built by the Earthen of Khazalgar. And right at the bottom of the coreway, that big thing that you fly down in Dorna Gul, is seemingly Azeroth. But no one, other than the Titans, can influence her. And it seems that actually going all the way down the coreway to the actual Worldcore is currently impossible. So, Xal'atath needs access. And this is where things all begin to lock into place, because everything that she's worked toward has been about one goal: access to the World Soul. The energy, the dark heart, devouring host, Voidspire, everything was designed to crack the Titan's Worldcore shell. And that is where the Sunwell comes in, and one final unwitting pawn: Illyria. Okay, so we know two things. Azeroth is trapped in the Worldcore, and Xal'atath is about to attack the Sunwell. You might be thinking, what's the connection? Well, it may be going back, but we've actually been told. It's ley lines. We've been told numerous times that the ley lines are Azeroth's energy, kind of like the vessels that pump arcane energy instead of blood. And where it's cool is that in Season of Discovery, we discovered a trove of previously undiscovered lore. Xal'atath had been hunting light crystals like the one that we found in Hallowfall long before we even knew they existed. In Season of Discovery, we see that she has worked in the shadows of the Twilight's Hammer at least as far back as Vanilla. But some discoveries are only finding relevance now, like, for example, the Warlock's Traveling Imp. Sounds weird, but let me explain. A new spell introduced that would send an imp across the universe to steal stuff. And it seems that that imp traveled to Voidstorm and brought us back something that Xal'atath had been studying. Check this out. It's a Worldcore fragment, and it reads, quote, "Attempt to attune to a targeted ley line conflict." So that fragment attunes to ley lines, and it's proof that the Worldcore directly links to the ley lines. Now zoom out, and you see ley lines connected to Titan machinery all over Azeroth. From Ulduar to Uldum, the ley lines to the Worldcore, they are all connected, and at the heart of the whole operation is an imprisoned World Soul. Now think about the most powerful ley line sources: Suramar, Karazhan, where Dalaran once stood, and one of the most powerful of all, the Sunwell. Xal'atath is set to transform the Sunwell into the Darkwell, but that won't be the end of the story. We are fairly sure, like 99.9% sure, that the Sunwell is saved and that it's transformed into something called a Dawnwell. There's a lot of details we don't have, though. Yet we seem to know that we don't defeat Xal'atath, and if anything, we can kind of confirm that she corrupts a powerful leyline source. We've established that its energy feeds back into the Titan's Worldcore prison, where a sleeping goddess is waiting to be consumed. Now, how does she turn the key on that locked gate? And that's where I think Illyria will come in. She wasn't the hunter or some butterfly waiting to lock the Void's plans into place. No, I think she was a pawn, and she played her part in things perfectly. On Argus, she consumed the Void Naru Lura, and ever since has been carrying it around within her. When she visited the Sunwell after Legion, Lura could not help but manifest the Void into the Sunwell chamber. It knew its destiny. It seemed to know that one day it would be used to corrupt the Sunwell, and Illyria has struggled with the voices inside ever since. She believed they offered her power, but in the end, she was just a battery waiting to be spent, because that still is within her. I think that whenever Lura is dragged out, torn out of Illyria and unleashed in the Sunwell, I think then Xal'atath will have a direct connection to the Worldcore. And while we're dealing with all the chaos on the surface, maybe she'll be sinking her fangs into the last barriers between her and a weakened, frightened world soul. And while we're doing exactly what she knows we'll do, try to save the world, she'll be working on schemes that we will only fully understand once she has become what she wants to be, the Great Devourer. And remember this, Blizzard have basically said that we lose Midnight. We'll probably win at the start, right? Save the Sunwell. But they've pretty much said we'll lose Midnight. And we know that the Last Titan only happens because something goes on in Azeroth that's so bad that the Titans are forced to return. Keep that in mind as you're playing through. And maybe when very good, bright, happy things happen, maybe think, probably more under the surface, and we're probably going to lose. Okay, I think that's the Xal'atath stuff you really need to know for this expansion. I think this will help you enjoy things and sort of see where the story's going. But if you want to see more and a full breakdown of that cinematic that I referenced earlier, with a whole bunch more detail, watch this video next.